of your smiling faces. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. Before we get started, I wonder if I can invite everyone to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Absolutely.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can everyone hear me okay? Oh my goodness, we got a joker in the front row here. I'm very pleased to see everyone. It's a good crowd tonight. Do you mind if I ask how many of you got a postcard in the mail? And tell me, how many are here for the first time? Quite a few. Thank you for coming. So those of you that are here for the first time, and those of you who may have updated email addresses, we have a newsletter that goes out once a month. And in my newsletter, I try to make it short and sweet, easy read, something you might want to come back and do again, read it again, hopefully. I explain sometimes maybe how I voted, if I voted no on something, why I voted no, or, information I think you might be interested in. And so if you'd like to receive that newsletter online, we also run those articles in the local newspapers. If you'd like to receive it, you can sign up here. And I also want to let you know the postcards won't come every month necessarily. We can only send so many, and so each time we try to send to new people so that we can kind of grow our contact base. And so I'll pass that around. If you're already in the queue with us, in the distribution with us, don't worry about signing it because we've already got you situated. I wonder if my staff could come up. Before we get started, I want to introduce, and just to let everyone know how the evening is going to go, we're going to try and do this in 1 hour. I'm going to try to give a short 15-minute update. And then I'm inviting this year one of the council members from your city to share my meeting with me. The reason I do that is a little bit selfish. Oftentimes people ask questions that really are not unincorporated county related, and I'm not quite sure how to answer it because it's a different jurisdiction. And so it's helpful to have them give a little bit of an update. And so Council Member Mary Jane Taff Lopez Taff is going to be giving us a quick 15-minute update, and then we'll both stand and field questions if you have any after that. And I wanted to introduce my team. Denisa Martian is my Chief of Staff. Forrest Johnson and Scott Borges are Special Assistants. And I got lucky again. Those of you who have known me for a long time know I had such a dynamite team. We have another dynamite team. So give them a hand because I'm excited to have them on board. So thank you. And through the evening, if I can't answer someone, as you know, I'll say, what do you guys know? And they'll help us. So tonight, I'm going to quickly, I've already eaten into our time, but I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that happened over the last couple months. Last time I was here was in November, and we, since that time, there's some things that have happened. We're going to talk a little bit about May's consent decree and what that means for the county. I'm going to give you just a quick update on the budget. Talk a little bit about Laura's Law, which is scheduled to launch in February of this year. If you haven't received my newsletter, I'll be writing about that this time. Has my newsletter gone out yet? No, it hasn't gone out yet. Okay, it'll be going out. And then I also will be talking a little bit about a little survey that the county did, budget survey, to give you an idea of how people are thinking in Sacramento County. We have a couple of announcements So, and there was one individual who had asked me, Forrest, are you here? Forrest, thank you for reaching out, wanted me to talk a little bit about transportation. I'm hoping we brought the big, demonstrate the map that we had. Oh, good, thanks, Scott. So, just to kick it off, I wanted to let you know that in December, we voted on, well, before we start, is there anyone here who serves on a board or a commission in Citrus Heights or the county? Fuzzy, want to stand up and introduce yourself and the board that you're working on?
I'm Jay Evans. I sit on the Sunlight Parks and Recs board. So if you have any questions, give me a call. I'll stick around afterwards for a couple of minutes.
Anyone else work on a board or a commission or CPAC? Okay, thank you. Thank you for your leadership. If you're interested and if you have time to serve on a board or serve in a leadership capacity, we have about 67 boards and commissions at the Sacramento County, and we always have vacancies, so we're looking for that kind of leadership. So if you're interested, reach out to one of my team and they will let you know what positions are available, and you can let them know what you're interested in. And we have a couple people from the city. You guys want to stand up and introduce yourselves?
Mary Poole with the General Services Department.
Yay, Mary.
And I'm Megan Cooper, Economic Development and Community Engagement Director.
Thank you for being here. So in December, we were kind of backed into a corner at the county. You know, over the past many years, there have been all these conversations. There was a lawsuit. It was called May's, the May's consent decree was the sort of the settlement of that lawsuit or that case litigation that came to the county. And it was brought to us by, some prison law, the Prison Law Office and the Disability Rights of California, and they sued several counties in California. And before it came to Sacramento County, all the other counties had already lost and were basically fulfilling the results of what the settlement was. And we were in a position where we wanted to try to settle and try to negotiate what we thought we could afford. It wasn't an easy negotiation process, and in the end they said, you settle or we're going to come back and it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to look like this. It's going to be a lot worse.
And what was it about?
The consent decree was all about our jails and the conditions in our jails. They wanted us to fix the ADA, make our jails ADA, which in Sacramento County is kind of difficult because the main jail downtown, where people are generally waiting for trial, is a tall cement building, and it's an old building. And in order to make it qualify for the ADA policies and guidelines, we would lose a third of the capacity of that jail. And so we were in a position of trying to figure out how can we make it ADA compliant and still at least maintain more capacity, not reduce it by that amount. And there were other things. They wanted to talk about, reducing suicide, working on disciplinary measures that would isolate people who are have mental health issues, so that they're not, in the main jail population. They're in a more appropriate environment. So medical care, mental health care, suicide prevention, and also restricted housing. They wanted us to find a way to provide more out-of-cell time. In general, if you've ever toured our jails, it's not pretty. They need to be improved, in my opinion. It's not, I'll just tell you, my little brother was in jail. I worried the whole time we all worried the whole time he was there, so we need to improve the conditions in our jails. The challenge is always financial. Seems like there's never enough money for these things. But at the end of the day, the out-of-cell time, at the end of the day, the cost for the consent decree we had estimated would be around $100 million for the capital improvements and $50 million a year for the officers that we would have to hire in order to provide out-of-cell time. Out-of-cell time isn't easy because some people can't be out of cell with a group. Some groups or gangs can't be out of cell with each other, or they'll kill each other. You can't put, some people have to go out of cell with 2 officers. It's challenging. And then we also have the challenge of the reduction of the population in the state prison system is causing our jails to be more overcrowded with more long-term, higher crime type situations where people are now, instead of a jail that was designed to house people for maybe 1 or 2 years, there we have, you know, the people staying aging in our jails for 13 years. And so we're providing dialysis and medical health and mental health and all that as well. So it's gotten way more challenging, not only for our jails, but also for our juvenile detention. And well, we have people here tonight that are helping, you know, transition people out of the jails. Patrick, we love you. So we were in a position where if we did not agree on something that was going to move forward this ADA improvement, that we would be faced with a federal, what do you call that, where the Fed takes over? The federal government would just come in and take over, and receivership. They would basically say, we'll figure out what, since you can't figure out what you want to do, we'll figure it out and then you can just pay for it. Well, we couldn't let that happen. At the end of the day, we had a 3-2 vote. I supported it. I supported all along improving the jails. There were even times when the sheriff brought forward proposals to improve the jail conditions, and I would make a motion to approve it and couldn't get a second. And I think it was because the other members felt that we can't afford the money, you know. The matching money that would be required to get the money we were going to get from the state or the Fed was just so high that they didn't see the logic in it. And I guess, you know, everyone has a different way that they view things. So anyway, we did pass that, and we're going to be building a 3-story tower next to our main jail, and it will have a separate floor for criminally insane or mentally ill people, and drug and medical, and then new intake down below. And hopefully, you know, this last year we focused a lot on more money for drug rehab, mental health, and that kind of stuff, and that is continuing in the coming year. And as for our budget priorities, we're basically, our priorities are the same as last year. We are in a position where we just want to make sure we're in compliance with all of our obligations and maintain our existing service levels. Now, for those of you, I don't know about you, but I feel I had a citizen in one area of my district who said, Sue, so how does that work? You know, when we pay taxes, does that money come back to our area where our house is, or how does that work? And I said, well, it's complicated. Because it is. It's really complicated. And you'll get a little feel, yeah, this is a good time to bring up transportation, because you know, what did you want to know about transportation, Forrest and Sue?
We're going to get federal monies for these streets like Madison and Greenback and so on to improve them.
So this is has anyone seen this diagram before?
No.
Okay. Remember SB1? It was a few years back. How long ago was that, Mary? I can't remember. It was a couple years back when they passed SB1, and it was transportation. It was going to go to fix our roads. And it just, with time, every year it's going to get what do you call that, where it goes up with the, it's going to adjust.
Inflation adjustment,
Inflation
whatever.
adjustment, okay. And this kind of shows what SB1 is. This is this to me, it describes why our services get squeezed out, because the way we're passing, the policy we're passing oftentimes is so complicated and convoluted, and there's so much administrative burden. Imagine, and so in order to get some of this stuff to pass through legislature, they have to get every department written into it. And so there's money going to all different places, and everywhere, every time it takes a different turn, it has to have someone there to administer it and, just answer for how the money got spent. And so this is an example of one reason why I think we don't have enough money for our roads. We can't just, for those of you who don't know me very well, and we can leave this, people can look at this somewhere, you don't have to hold that up anymore. You guys are great. I just wanted you to get a feel, that's just one
That's crazy.
That's the tax dollar, how that tax dollar transmits. Follow the money, and you learn a lot about something. And so, I guess, for those of you who don't know me, I'll get you right after I say this. For those of you who don't know me, I generally don't support tax increases, because I feel we should be looking for efficiencies and trying to find ways to spend our dollars better to get the job done. And I'm not sure we've been successful with that, but I think we should focus more on that. And if someone when I do look at a tax initiative that comes out, I kind of have a way that I weigh whether or not I'm going to vote for it and or support it. I want to see if it's going to fix a specific problem that the community needs. Can it be reallocated without the vote of the people? A lot of these taxes have some kind of little small print inside where it says, it can, after 5 years or after 10 years, the Sacramento Transportation Authority Board can vote to make changes to how that money is spent. So the tax dollars that you thought you were voting on, you can't guarantee it's going to work out that way for the whole 30 or 40 years. And and is it going to sunset when the problem is fixed? Once you get it fixed and get it under control, does it sunset? Those are some of the things I look for. And if it's not, if it doesn't, that's how we can know that we're voting for something, that we can actually see where that money went and that it made a difference. Now, how many things have we voted? How many taxes have we voted? We voted for increased water storage. That was in 2014. I remember I was on the city council. Was I? Yeah. City council then. I was so excited because we were going to fix the water problem. We'd have more storage. We vote for tax. They come back every 2 years for another tax for roads. And I'm getting off on a tangent. I got to stop. But what I want to say is the tax always is what I call the Christmas tree. It has all those different, parks and libraries and all the different things written into it. It's not what we really need to get a handle on is maintaining, the deferred maintenance on our roads. The county, for the last 2 years, has allocated an extra $20 million in general funds for the unincorporated county. I do happen to know that your revenue neutrality in Citrus Heights ends in 2022. Is it the end of 22 or 4? I think it's 22. Mary?
Yeah, it was 22. We got our first payment this year.
Yeah, I'm sick about that because that's about $6.5 million or more that the county is losing to Citrus Heights, but you should have had it a long time ago. So I'm also really happy since I live in Citrus Heights. But Forrest, you had a question.
Yeah, my main question was, we're underneath, in the same district as Almebara, so we get notifications from him what's happening and what monies are coming down federally, and he's claiming that some of the roads that in Carmichael have been improved under his monies that are flowing down. And I'm just wondering why it missed maybe you. Or
It didn't,
Citrus Heights.
well, Citrus Heights is a city, so I'm not sure if it missed Citrus Heights. I don't know if Citrus Heights benefited, but if you have projects, and Mary's, may know more about this, or Mary Jane may in her update, but there's different kinds of money coming down. Environmental flood, this past flood that we had, there's going to be fires we had, there's going to be money associated with safety in the roads and that kind of thing. It's always a matter of trying to find, I call it the color of money, because our money goes to the federal and the state government, and then they turn around and say, if you do this with the money, they put an attachment, a condition on the money. So we don't really have money that, we could, in our own community, take our money. Imagine what we could do if we had control over our money, full discretion over our money. But we don't anymore. It's crazy, but true. I don't know if I answered your question, but I will be meeting with Congressman Vera and several new legislators around Rancho Murrieta, which was completely closed off during the last flood. There was no way in or out for a few hours. It was tentative, opening and closing, and the county was working really hard, but it was that now the conversation is elevated to a matter of safety in the rural areas. And we continue to advocate for funding. And if I can help in any way, have your council members connect with me, and we'll try to work together to advocate for money with Congressman Vera. We can definitely try. I mean, Yes.
Ma'am, you had mentioned about, I've seen the flow charts. I've worked for the state for 31 years, so I'm somewhat familiar. But I'd like to go back to this thing about water storage. Yeah, we taxpayers voted for SB 2014, right? We haven't even built a pond.
I know. That's my point.
So what I'm saying, this whole thing is dysfunctional. I mean, we paid for money for street improvements. This is, you pay for this tax, and by God, we're going to fix all these streets. I listen to the people of Citrus Heights, gee, we just don't have any money. Well, what do you mean? Then where are our tax dollars going?
Okay, well, that is like a long conversation, and I want to have that conversation with you. I have a whole lot of ideas about that. I've been studying hard I'm
just saying
could I talk about it, but I don't know if we have time,
Probably
and I want to
not.
make sure I don't take her time, so I hear your frustration.
I'm just saying, it's
I feel your
dysfunctional.
frustration.
That's why I vote no.
Everything.
So how many have heard about, I'm just going to quickly go through Laura's Law, because I don't want to eat into Mary Jane's time. Have you heard about Laura's Law? Okay. Laura's Law is something that had been kicking around at the county for a while. It's for the severely mentally ill. There are actually people out there who are severely mentally ill, and they don't know they have a problem. We walk by them in the streets, they're rocking or talking to themselves, or they have some kind of psychosis. It could be from drugs, it could be from schizophrenia, or, drug-induced mental illness. And those are the most vulnerable people out there, and they're the ones that cost the taxpayers the most money, because they end up in the emergency room and there's no place to take them, and that drives the cost up. The average homeless person is costing the taxpayers around, this is a couple years ago, $59,000 or so a year, but it can be up to the high cost homeless, or can be up to $100,000 or $102,000 a year. And those are the people where someone walks up and they think they're dead and they call 911 and they end up in the hospital. It drives it up really fast. Or the people that go to the ER for refilling their medication or whatever. So what Laura's Law does is it's really assisted outpatient treatment, and in order to get into that program, someone has to refer you, and there's a long interview process that will take place with several different departments, and there's only a couple different people who can actually recommend you for the assisted outpatient treatment court. It works in conjunction with the court, even though the court cannot force someone to take medicine or lock someone up against their will. If they go through the court, what we're learning from San Francisco is that those who actually go before the judge with the black robe, many of them don't even end up getting to the court because they opt into the program before they get to the court. And out of those people, they've stated that it's something like 30% who go through the program actually transition out. So it's not something that we can treat a lot of people. There won't be a lot of people that work their way through that each year, but enough to where it will chip away at the high-cost homeless and those that are the most vulnerable out there. We voted on Laura's Law about a year or two ago, and it was difficult getting the program set up. My next newsletter is going to talk about it, so I won't go into more details, but it's supposed to be launched in February of this year, and that means people will begin to go through that process. I think I'll end that with that, and then I do want to say, I'm running low on time, but we had a group at the county. You know how a small activist group who wanted to have citizens more involved in the budget process. They wanted to actually be part of the budget process decisions. And my concern at the time was that if we're going to do that, I want to make sure my district is in the conversation, because my district isn't here, and I want them to have input also. And so what the county did was they hired a company, FM3, to do a research opinion this year. It wasn't a lot of people, but it was enough that they felt it was a meaningful opinion research. The participants, 8 people came from cities. Every city was represented in the county. 10 people came from the unincorporated. 8 people came from low income, and 10 people from not low income. And their input, they enjoy Sacramento. They have concerns about the cost of living. They have intense concerns about homelessness and the increase in crime and violence. What I thought was interesting about the poll, the research, was that the concerns shifted a little over the last couple years. Last year and the last couple years, the biggest concerns were homelessness and housing. This year, the biggest concern was public safety, and then safety net services for homeless, safety net services for seniors and children, and homeless and housing. So it kind of shifted a little bit, not a lot, because they were all so close, you could almost say they were equal. But it kind of gave me an idea that there must be more crime because people are concerned. Is that what you guys are feeling like?
Absolutely.
So I wanted to mention that. And then lastly, I want to say we do have another, did you know that the Sacramento Metro Airport received an award, a national award, the best medium-sized airport in the United States? And we are actually doing an upgrade, $1.3 billion to increase the size, the capacity, because we're actually having trouble meeting the capacity that's coming through our airport. And so they're going to be increasing the size of the airport. I want to thank my good friend, Special Assistant Scott Borges, who created, this is, you already get a calendar. This is a one-pager with your garbage information. You still get the calendar? I do. Yeah. He also, we've been getting a lot of calls from Citrus Heights citizens who are, needing help with, or reporting something, and they're not sure, they weren't sure where to go. And so Scott created a little one-page flyer to give you, do you want to tell about this, Scott, real quick?
Yeah.
Come up here in front of this so they can,
Yeah, so.
just real quick.
The supervisor was saying, we've been getting some people saying, oh, there's a dilapidated car on the street, there's stuff growing out of it, things that would normally go to like the county's 311 system, but because Citrus Heights is an incorporated city, you guys have your own code enforcement. So it's just kind of steps on how to report that, either through the website, the phone number to call, or the email, and it just kind of gives you some tips and tricks on how to navigate it. So we're just trying to make it easy for everybody.
Yeah, and you can still call our office and we'll still connect you with the appropriate people. If it's easier, just to call our office. That's what we're there for. Thank you, Scott.
Yeah.
Yes, and there's flyers on that back there, right?
On both ends.
Okay, yes, and
My name is Randy Martinez. I am a hospice nurse of almost a decade and the founder of a new nonprofit aimed at helping Christian healthcare workers get the gospel. And I was wondering what community resources are available to a new nonprofit and how we can be of assistance to our healthcare community members.
I want you to get my Chief of Staff Denise's card, and then she will email you those resources, and we'll get you that. There's a lot. Okay, and then lastly, pet adoptions for veterans, they waive the fee at Sac County.
Nice.
In case you want to adopt a pet. Now, I'm
Susan,
very,
say that again, what people would waive?
pet adoptions
Oh, pet adoption.
are waived for veterans in Citrus Heights. I'll pass this around so you can look at it if you want.
Or we have a dog.
Oh, yeah, I don't have time for a dog. Mary Jane, come on up. I'm really excited. Mary Jane agreed to give an update. Honestly, I called your mayor first because I thought that would be the most appropriate, but Mary Jane was able and willing. So Mary Jane, Councilmember Mary Jane Lopez Taft, take it away.
Thank you so much, and thank you everyone for coming out. The sun just broke out just for you, and the rain stopped. So thank you for coming and participating and listening and telling. That's such an important thing that I learned running for an office and coming and sitting at the dais. So, that's important that we all participate. So what I'm going to do is really talk about what are my priorities, why did I come to City Council, and then finally some resources for you, because you're coming here because you want help and information. Would that be a pretty good assessment of what you're looking for? Help and information. Okay. So, somebody said something else?
Instead of like a few potholes fixed.
Absolutely, and that's help. Yes. So why did I come to City Council? I have been a resident of Citrus Heights since 2000. My family and I came from the Bay Area, and we were thinking, this is an amazing community. It's affordable. It has everything we need. It's got a mall. It's got everything we are interested in. Wonderful schools, a great place to raise my daughter, who was 7 at that time. And so we've been here since 2000, never looked back, never looked for another place to live. because we so enjoyed Citrus Heights. My kids have gone to San Juan Unified School District schools, and we have enjoyed our entire existence here. Then COVID happened, my work changed. I own my own business and did training in corporate settings all along the West Coast. But COVID shut down all travel, so I was sent home, I think it was March 13th, and never to get back on a plane since then, in 2020. And so I said, okay, if I'm going to be grounded, what am I going to do in my community? Let's get connected. Because I'm one who doesn't like to sit around my house, and I found myself kind of grumbling and complaining during COVID. You know, those of us who were too busy to notice, anybody too busy to notice before COVID? And then all of a sudden you were all too aware what was happening in our community? That was me too. And so I was looking around and wondering, okay, how do I stop complaining? Because I don't like to complain. I'm one of those fairly positive people who like to bring solutions to my challenges rather than making the challenge grow out of control. And so I said, okay, Jane, you got to put your muscle where your mouth is. And so I started getting involved and got involved first with my Chamber of Commerce. What was happening in my local economy that I could be a part of and maybe help in some way. Got really, really involved there. And then started rejoining because I had been traveling so much. I had to stop my engagement with a lot of my service organizations. So I got re-engaged with my service organizations and simply started helping people. Everyone knows when you help someone else, you stop worrying about yourself and your problems, and it seems miraculously that those problems vaporize. The other thing that I really enjoyed was just figuring out how things work governmentally in our city. I knew that we were really scrappy and became a city almost 25 years ago at that moment. And I was thinking, wow, that's pretty amazing that we, started reading some of the history and thought it's really amazing that we have that reputation in Citrus Heights. So we're really scrappy and we fight for what we want. And I thought, I'm kind of a fighter. Nobody really knows that, but I'm really a fighter for what I want. And I thought, I would love to join a city that would do that. And for those of you who are familiar with Jeannie Bruins, she had then announced her retirement. And I thought, okay, I could run for that because she's in my district, and you can't exactly run for a position held by a powerhouse like Jeannie Bruins, who had been part of the incorporation and been on city council for quite a while. So I was thinking, all right, now is my moment, and I really admired Jeannie. And so I was thinking, what could I do that would follow someone I admire and be something of value? So I decided to run, and here I am. Now, sitting on city council, I just want to remind you, my disclaimer, I'm the most freshman of the city council members. Dr. Jana Karpinski-Costa is a comeback kid, so she doesn't count as a freshman in my mind. It's almost like she came back in her second semester freshman year. For me, I'm a true freshman, never ran for anything, never showed up in local politics. So I was asking Sue when she asked me to come tonight, I said, I have to tell them that I barely got the seat warmed up. So, I will report some things, and then I will refer a bunch of our to a bunch of our staff. So please forgive me that I don't know everything yet. But my priorities, and they have always been my priorities even through my campaign, was safety and safe streets. Safety and safe streets. I come from a family of cops, and I really, really am concerned about safety in our community. And that's super important to me, that we support our police department, because we have the rare opportunity of having our own police department. We are able to support them financially and fiscally, but we also want to support them in our community because of their efforts. And supporting them also is telling them when something is going on. Like they say, if you see something, say something. If you suspect something is going on in your community, don't hang on to it until that drug house that you suspect is a drug house gets out of control and starts wrecking your neighborhood. start telling our police officers that you are suspecting something is going on, because they can't just come rushing in at the first call. They need to build a case in some instances of issue, right? That issues need to be built, so safety. Number 2, and this is really important to me as a former business owner, I've now given up my business, but number 2 is economic development and prosperity for Citrus Heights. How do we engage and invite businesses to be part of our local economy? How do we make Citrus Heights attractive? We have these amazing economic corridors in our city. You know, it's something crazy, like 40,000 cars pass our streets, especially Sunrise, connecting 2 major arteries of freeway systems. How do we get them to stay, play, and eat here? You know, that is one of those things, and many of you participated in our Sunrise Tomorrow plan. We took everything you wanted and incorporated that into a major vision that should be realized over the next 20 years. Now, if you're anything like me, I know you're impatient, because I'm impatient. 20 years sounds like a long time, but if you think about it, hasn't 5 years passed really quickly? If you think about that, the last 5 years has happened so quickly that, first of all, you were thinking this is never going to end, and then it ended and we're already 2 years past. And so time is relative. When things start happening, it's going to pass so much more quickly. So economic development is always on my mind. And finally, a new conversation that's always been on my mind, but it's starting to come up more and more, is what are we going to do to bring quality education back to Citrus Heights? What are we going to do to support quality education? Whether it's working with our school district and creating a thriving environment for our learners. The other thing that many people do not know is after I transitioned from being a business owner, I started working for an education nonprofit. And so I am looking at education in the state of California and across the nation every day, and it's my job to do so. And to figure out what are the trends that I can bring to help the local economy thrive. That's so very important. My kids are grown up, but guess what? I have my first grandchild. Many of you have grandchildren, you have grown children, and now you're concerned, what are we going to do and how are we going to offer exceptional education for our next generation? We're all very concerned about that. And there's a lot of legislation and ideas being passed around, but if they never land in our classrooms, even in exploratory stages, how do we know things are going to work in the future? Because right now, throwing the baby out with the bathwater, saying let's scrap public education as we know it, is not an answer. It's not an answer. So then what is? And we need, you know, great minds, great ideas to come to the table to be okay saying a little bit of this and a little bit of that might be the answer, and let's try it in a contained environment, right? A lot of you talked about taxpayer dollars. At the city, we manage a lot of taxpayer dollars, but we don't currently have a lot of legislation or tax strategies. And so, you know, those are things that probably Sue and state level legislators will talk more about. We really manage a lot of various pots of money to get jobs done here locally. All right, resources. Anybody have questions on that? Just my personal priorities, why I came to Citrus Heights. All right. Okay, now resources. I know you're waiting with bated breath. Okay, I have one that is my favorite of the moment. My favorite resource of the moment is an app called See Click Fix. I heard earlier potholes. How do I report a pothole? Well, we have a great app. You can find it through citrusheights.net, See Click Fix. It's, I think, Mary, is it on the general services? It's on the general services page, and did you move it to the top yet?
It's everywhere.
Okay, perfect. But it's also a downloadable app on your phone. I have it on my phone, and so whenever you see a pothole, or for me, during our wind storm, portion of our storm, one of our signs flew off, and it was a directional storm on a main road. And so I reported it, and what's really cool about it is it monitors your report. It gives you a report when the city's picked it up. It gives you a report when the city's fixed it. Amazing, right? Who knew? Now you know. All right. So see Click Fix, it's amazing. I really, really love it and enjoy it. The other thing that we have is a resource cards. Someone was mentioning, I didn't know who to call for a particular something. We have these cool informational cards, and the colors mean something. So the blue small information card is primarily for residents, okay? And on the back, it's got contact information and how to use it. And it's part of our Citrus Heights Cares program. Citrus Heights Cares is a great new program we just launched, and we have a 2-page flyer. Feel free to pick it up. I think it's living on that back table now. And feel free to pick up, it's 2 pages. It explains all of the assets related to Citrus Heights Cares. And the green, just like I mentioned, the colors mean something. The green is for our business owners. So if you're a business owner or have one you care about, give them one of these, because it's a great tool that they could just put on the side of their phone or near their computer as resources. And finally, we have a yellow card that is for our unhoused residents. So if you have someone, maybe you're in ministry or service to homeless individuals, this is a card that you can give them, and they can contact our resources. And the nice thing that we have here in Citrus Heights is we have homeless navigators. We have individuals who help our homeless or unhoused residents get the assistance that they need, and maybe they just don't know is available. Everybody needs a navigator in life. You know, I was just talking, because I'm in the education space, we were talking about academic navigators for kids in high school. Wouldn't that be nice? It's not a counselor, but it is a someone to help you navigate through your academic thriving, and that's what we have for our homeless individuals. Another, and I'll be really, really brief here, another thing that I want to bring to your attention is please get involved. And this is going to be my last thing. Get involved. We have 2 major things that we want you to be involved with. I have some friends here from my neighborhood association. Who is in Citrus Heights, a resident of Citrus Heights? Okay, see, Kathy, take note. We have people to refer to our neighborhood associations. Get involved in a very local effort. It's so much fun to get to know your neighbors and put your shoulder to something, whether it be a neighborhood cleanup, or for us, getting benches for our trail, or, you know, cleaning up a school, beautifying a corner, you know, someplace that might have been an eyesore to you. Get a bunch of residents together, rope in Mary and her team, and they'll tool us up with shovels and rocks and things like that. We've had a good time in my neighborhood association doing that. But secondly, come back here. We invite you. This is your house. This is your local house to get involved. Let us hear your concerns. Speak at the mic. We're really a friendly group. And let us know what you're concerned about, because again, if we don't hear it, we can't do anything about it. Would you agree about that? You know, what I realized sitting around my dinner table complaining about the economy and everything else was nothing was happening. It was like spitting in the ocean. But the second I showed up here, I felt like if I talked to somebody, something could happen. At least someone would circle back to me with a resource or some information I was not previously aware of, right? How many of you knew we had homeless navigators here in Citrus Heights? Oh, many of you do. Great, because it's our signature project, right? But I invite you to get involved. And so thank you, Sue, for inviting me, and we'll open it up for questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good. We have a few minutes, so thank you very much. That was very informative.
All right.
Does anyone have any questions? Yes, sir.
Well, Sorry to take up your time.
You're okay.
Fred Gage, I live in Citrus Heights. I've lived here since 1974. Retired military, basically. Got a question for both of you. There is an assembly bill that was just introduced by a guy down in Riverside, and I'll leave it at that, to ban the use of police dogs because in arrests, because they impact on people of color. Well, you know what? I don't know if this guy wants more dead cops or what, but I'm wondering if the city and the county intend to take a position on the bill.
Well, I can respond. Personally, I wouldn't support something like that. The police dogs are a great asset, not only for safety, but for morale.
Well, yeah.
The county does not, let's see, the county has jurisdiction over the sheriff's budget. We approve the sheriff's budget, but not his operations. And so I'm not sure how that would, I don't believe that the state has jurisdiction over a sheriff's budget, operations. I don't know how that works with the police, are you just talking about police? Because I don't think that the state has jurisdiction.
This bill is an assembly bill, I can't remember the name of it. The guy that authored it's he lives in Riverside, that's his district, and it is to ban the use of police dogs by law enforcement.
I'm not sure constitutionally how that works with the sheriff, because my understanding is that according to our charter in Sacramento County, our board has jurisdiction over approving the budget. We don't control the sheriff's operations, and that the sheriff doesn't report to the legislature or the county.
But the sheriff has canine units.
They have canine, yeah.
Yes.
So I'm not sure how, I don't think I know the answer as far as if that did pass, would it be constitutional and would there be,
Well, I was wondering whether or not the county, or may I put it this way, I would ask you to have the county.
I won't ever support that. I'll go out again, I'll speak out against it.
I don't know what, the Citrus
Yeah,
Heights position.
I'm going to call on our Vice Mayor, Britt Daniels.
So.
Come on up here, Brett, come up here.
You'll likely, 99% likely see a position on that at our next council meeting.
Yeah.
We have to vote for it, we have to discuss it, we can't just say it publicly.
Oh, no, I
Because if we
understand
say it
that.
publicly, then, you already had your mind made up, kind of a thing. So it should be on our agenda, and you will likely see us take a position on that.
Yeah.
You could probably guess our position on that.
Yeah, and I can tell you, our chief is monitoring that situation very, very closely.
Okay, thank you.
It seems like more and more they want to defend the police so they
Yeah.
can't provide the services.
Yeah, by
There's
chipping
an
away.
attack on law enforcement. Yes.
I'm glad you're taking your position on the city jail. I've had the opportunity of working in that jail. It was built with so many code violations because of budget constraints that are now costing the taxpayers millions and millions of dollars to try to fix. And in that time in working in that jail, I actually witnessed a suicide that took place within the 2 hours I was working there in one of the cells. And I worked down at RCCC too. And no offense, that facility is in real poor shape.
Yeah.
So I support your position and what you're doing because our jails are in dire need of improvement.
Agreed. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Two parts of talking here about supporting the jails and going on. I agree 100%. I don't have my problem with my money being spent for that. I don't have a problem with helping the homeless, okay? Where I do have a problem with is all of a sudden a whole lot of people are coming into our country, our borders, because of this open border, as far as I'm concerned. I'm spending the money there instead of spending the money on our vets and our people that need help here, okay? Period. The U.S., people that are U.S. citizens, okay? That's who I want to take care of. It's aggravating me with all the money that is being spent and putting them up in the Hyatt, okay? So anyway, addressing that, that's my thoughts, and I wanted to get it off my chest, okay? I'm a vet also, and I don't mind the money going out for that type. And the people that are homeless, I'll help them every way I can. All right. Secondly is, I've been in my house, in fact, the gentleman here has been in longer than I have, okay? I moved here in '78 into Citrus Heights before it was a city, okay? 45 years, okay? I've been in my house. I pay property taxes. I asked my wife tonight, I said, do you remember of somebody maybe knocking on the door or them paving my street? Okay, they put the potholes, they put the Band-Aid on it, okay? I happen to be to where I wish I had speed bumps, because it's a shortcut from where I live over off of Greenback and Dewey to where they bypass that stoplight or want to beat the stoplight, so they'll come down through my street and zip on over. I live on Bix Avenue. Right? It's a racetrack along there. I go over to
So many are.
it's unbelievable. Okay, go to, is it Raintree or whatever it is? But anyway, one of the smaller streets, they got speed bumps there, all right, on that racetrack. But on my street, which is long, okay, and believe me, you'll get your car tore up. That's the only way that maybe they slow down, is hitting a few of those potholes, okay. I don't remember of the 45 years of having my street paved. Nobody knocked on the door, do I need it paved, or anything. Just give me the old patch job. It's irritating. I'm so tired of spending my tax money over 45 years and nothing. It's just absolutely nothing as far as I'm concerned. That affects me personally.
Yeah.
And my neighbors, as far as I'm concerned. I'm speaking for Robert also here, okay? I think he has the same.
Well, you're speaking for a lot of people, and I do
people.
want to say, there's a sense of services just slowly getting squeezed, and the administrative cost of government growing in my mind. And not enough money for the services that are getting squeezed out, that can be attributed to a lot of things. It can be attributed to the priorities we have in our spending, the policies we have in California. That we have policies in California that raise the cost of everything, and I call it the trifecta of failure in California: taxes, regulation, litigation. Those three things are driving up cost of everything. And so I think those are conversations that we as, you need to have with us, but also with our state legislators and our people in Congress to, ask what they can do, what are they going to do to change that. Over time, the federal government, I think it was in 2011 or 12 when the federal government pulled back on transportation dollars and passed it off to the states. And then the states didn't have enough money, so they kind of put all these, regulations about, we only have enough money for roads if you're gonna, redo the street and put sidewalks and trees, and we have all these environmental priorities. And so the only money out there, the big money that's out there, is for complete streets, which is beautiful, but there's not money for the non-sexy, just fix the overlays before they get the potholes, before they digress with a pavement condition index so low that you have to scrape the whole road off and redo it. So we're now in a position where, political priorities were not practical for us, and it's costing us exponentially more. I can tell you, when I became a supervisor in 2017, the deferred maintenance on Sacramento County unincorporated roads was 450 million. I remember because I thought I was so smart that I met with the county to figure that out so I could say it in my conversations. 3 years later, 3 years later, I said, 3 years later, the deferred maintenance on unincorporated county roads was 795 million. Almost double. And the reason for that is because when the pavement condition, which goes 0 to 100, gets below a certain level where the asphalt is crackling, you can see it, then they have to scrape down the hole to the dirt and redo the whole road, which is more expensive. Plus, roads are not the only infrastructure that's been deferred on by our politicians over decades.
Crooked politicians.
Decades, hundred years, you know, really, it's water infrastructure, electric infrastructure, PG&E and fires in California, let's face it, roads, sewer, you know, all those leaky pipes underground are, you know, those are issues. And so you fix the road and then they have to tear the road up to get to a broken pipe or whatever. So you can't just fix a road. You have to dig down and fix the infrastructure too, or you're going to be coming back. And we're working really hard to try to team up with, I know Citrus Heights does this really well, because when I was a council member here, it was a priority. And the county's trying to do it too, to team up with the water districts and others to fix those things while we're fixing those roads, all at the same time.
Yeah.
But we're now in a situation where, like a kid who got their first credit card, they run it up, max it out, and they can't afford the payments on the payments to pay the principal down. You know, we're backed into a little bit of a pickle, I call it. So I think we need to demand more from our public leaders. And, you know, those of us that are on these boards, we're only one person. It's 5 different people that make the decisions. So it's the political will of the community that's guiding what politicians do. And your voice, you may not think it matters, but your voice matters. You need to call them out. You need to not just elect them, not just vote, but watch their talk and their walk and see if they're representing you well. That's how you know if you're watching them. Otherwise, you just expect they're going to go do it, but you don't know. We need people that are willing to stand up and represent well. Did you want to say anything to that? I'm sorry, I went on a rant.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Along the lines of that, this is what I've always said. Please do your research. A lot of things, legislation included, tax initiatives, tax ideas, tax strategies, they all sound very interesting until you dig into, does it sunset? Are they going to convert it after 3 years? Those things are very important to the overall strategy. So please do your research when you vote. An uninformed voter is the most dangerous voter we have right now. And I really am an advocate for an educated voter. Have the conversations. You know, talk around your dinner table about what you read and how deeply you read into that. I mostly vote no on tax initiatives because they all sound good, but as you read through, I highlight, underline, and circle things. Yeah. And I look at all of their, you know, cross information because it's sneaky.
Yeah, they're very sneaky.
Yeah, it's sneaky, and unfortunately at the city level, I could speak to this, at the city level, we are subject to a lot of those overarching refinements in those laws before we get the money. So we're restricted very severely into how we can use those dollars. And not to mention, this is the first year we actually got your property tax that you've been paying to the city. So we have done a lot with very, very little for the city. And that's not an excuse, that's just the reality.
Okay, these are the last 2 questions, and then Jay Evans has an announcement for us.
So I understand with the bureaucracy and stuff, it's just wrought with corruption and all that from every level, from the
Yep.
federal down to the state level, and we said over and over. I think that what I would like to see, just as a taxpayer and a citizen, is more looking into laws being repealed. That are duplication of laws, and where you have extra.
Instead of
administration.
adding new-
Instead of adding
500 new
laws,
ones.
Let's get back to where we actually are looking at things and seeing, is this program that they have, is it making a difference? If it's not, let's repeal that and get that out of there. 'Cause what you see is the duplication of
Yeah,
things on so many
citizens
levels.
mobilize, please.
I mean,
Well,
that's something
it's-
as a citizen, not just of the United States, but of Citrus Heights and the state of California, I would like to see more people, open their eyes to the.
Thank you.
Repealing
Yes,
stuff.
I am super proud.
We need you.
I'm proud that our Senator Milo is bringing forward a bill that will I don't know if it's a repeal, but it's basically going to reverse that situation that we have where people can go into a retail center and steal up to
Oh, good.
$950. If they become a serial, it's something that's going to roll that back. And I don't know all the details on it yet, but I'm grateful
Need to do more of that.
for that.
I knew there was a reason I worked for him.
Yeah, he's a good man.
Let me explain something on the roads. The money comes from the federal government, comes down to the cities or the counties, and they're allocated so much, and they have to follow the rules of the federal government. And you look at these streets that raise their speed limit. Well, that law just changed in 2022 that allows them, when they put these meters out, checking the traffic, and they've noticed to raise the speed limit from 40 to 45 miles an hour. It comes down to the county sends it down to the cities, and that's where we're stuck at in the deal. And the counties catch hell, the cities catch hell. It's our politicians back in D.C.
Yep.
are the ones you need to raise hell with.
We have a state gas tax too, though, that's highest in the
Pay
country.
your federal tax.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
Where's that
California
money?
is the highest taxes in the country. Okay, I want to respect everyone's time, so Jay has an important announcement, and I think he will say it better than I will, because he knows more than I do.
Yeah, change the subject a little bit if you guys don't mind. We have something coming to Citrus Heights at Rush Park. It's near and dear to me, and that is, it is the miniature three-quarter whatever you call it, rebuild of the wall, the Vietnam Memorial Wall from Washington, D.C. I have seen it. It's chilling. It's chilling. March 29th is when we, the Park District, are going to have some kind of an opening ceremony. I don't know what it is, and it's going to go till April 2nd, so it's only going to be here 4 days, okay? I see that there's a couple of you out there that are over 60.
How can you tell?
Yeah.
They all
yeah.
look so young to me.
And you remember that war. I remember it because I was part of it. But want to encourage all of you to get out there. If you know of anyone that died during the war in the bush, in Vietnam, go, and I think they're going to allow you to find the name on the wall. And you take a piece of paper and you do an etching of it, and you'll have it forever. It's a wonderful, wonderful piece. It was well thought out in Washington, and I look forward to seeing you all there.
Where's it going to be?
Oh, I'm sorry, Rush Park.
No, I know that.
In the bowl. Do you know what the bowl is? That's basically the center of the park, where when it rains, it fills up. Okay, so pray for sun.
Yeah.
Thank the American Legion Club of Citrus Heights.
The who's what?
The Citrus Heights American Legion Post is the one that kind of...
Are they the one hosting it?
Yeah, Paul Reyes with the American Legion Post 637. It was his idea, and he raised the money for it, and...
Never seen that miniature wall. It's heartbreaking. I've got too many buddies on that.
58,268, something like that. People are on that wall, men and women, and it's kind of chilling, so bring a handkerchief.
Thank you, Jay.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, good deal.
All right, well, thank you, everyone, for coming. And we'll be here after if you have any questions. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for being here.
When you're done,
Sure, I'm done.
I sent a letter to Representative Hoover on that very topic about